Deborah J. Ledford pulls us into an unfamiliar world surrounded by the ordinary, exposing family secrets, millennia-old traditions, and modern police work. Today we'll chat with the author about the Ava Lightning Dance Duran series. Welcome to Blackbird Writers Presents Author Interviews. I'm Sharon Len, and welcome to you, Deb.
Thanks, Sharon. This is great. We've known each other for a while, so I really appreciate this opportunity.
I am so excited to have you here. Thanks for coming. So I'm just going to jump right into our questions. You write Native American protagonists. So I've read your other series as well. Can you tell us about your background and why you chose the Taos Pueblo Nation for this series?
Sure. So my background, my mother's people are Eastern Band Cherokee from Western North Carolina, kind of smack dab.
Where your first series is.
Yeah, right at the edge of the Great Smoky Mountains. So I was very familiar with that area, and that's where my first series takes place, as you know. For this particular series, well, and let me go back a little bit. Actually, the book 2, Snare, also partially took place on the Taos Pueblo. So I was thankfully familiar with that area. And still had my contacts from back. I mean, I've been going there, oh my gosh, a long time, a long time. That book came out, I believe, in 2012 or something like that. So I had already had contacts established there. So thankfully, that worked out in that they were still willing to speak to me, first of all, but also to vet ideas and help me with a little bit of the traditions without going too far, without revealing too much that would make them uncomfortable.
Right.
Nothing I ever write isn't anything that can be found on a very deep dive, on the internet, because I don't want to overstep.
Right.
But
as some of your characters often do.
Yes, they do, but I personally don't want to. But so really the deal that came through, it necessitated me to write very quickly, and so thankfully Thomas and Mercer said yes. Taos Pueblo sounds great, so then I was able to proceed. I sold this series, the Ava Lightning Dance Duran series, on proposal and the first 5 chapters. So I knew what I needed to do. So finding the Taos Pueblo, back in the day, I knew I wanted to I needed a new tribe for Snare. Just a kind of a conflicting where the lead character in that, Deputy Stephen Hawk, took this rock star in peril back to the Taos Pueblo where she grew up for safety. So I knew when I was trying to find a reservation and a tribe of indigenous people that we live in Arizona, and I knew that I couldn't do Navajo because the Hillermans have that fully covered. I didn't want to do that. I grew up in Albuquerque, so I thought, okay, well, let's see what is there in New Mexico, and there are quite a number of tribes and reservations in New Mexico. So I decided on the Taos Pueblo, primarily because they had such an established and well-rounded and well thought of their traditions and the culture. As you can see my picture back here, that's the Taos Pueblo, one of the main houses. That's the North House. It's been around for over 1,100 years. So yet I had never read anything about the area, as far as a published novel.
Well, I grew up in northern Arizona, so right butting up against the Navajo reservation and the Hopi, which is within the Navajo.
Right.
I had never heard of Taos.
Oh, really? Wow.
Right, and yeah, it's just a lot of these things are very
right.
just
Yeah,
insular and private.
Very, very private. I mean, it's on 110,000 acres, but there are only like 1,100 members of the tribe, living on the reservation right now. And I think, maybe less than 100 people living in the the traditional dwellings, because I mean, there's no electricity, there's no running water, and only like the last 5 years were they even allowed, hot plates or, anything that resembled, nowadays times,
Right. Nowadays times. Well, and with that insular and private law enforcement is complex.
Yes.
When it involves another nation within a nation. So you have federal US, you have tribal, you have county, you have all kinds of things. So can you tell us a little bit about that and researching that and how you
Right.
fit in?
Yeah, it's a lot. For HAVOC, the second book, Ava actually becomes a Taos Pueblo police officer, tribal officer. Unfortunately, one of my main contact there, he was a former tribal officer. So he was able to talk me through a lot. And, when do the feds get involved, or, how many toes are stepped on, or, who is allowed to investigate crimes and so forth and so on. Now, even from book one, all of my work takes place in a very short time frame. I mean, 3 days, 4 days at the very, very most. And that helps me in this because, once if the tribal council decides, yes, we want to call in the FBI, it's time. We don't have the capability to fully investigate this essentially this murder that happens on our land. They have to request permission. It has to be cleared. There's a lot of red tape. There's a lot going on. And so the short time frame works in my favor, because that adds to the ticking clock. As far as this, it was ramping up the suspense for both books, really.
Oh yeah, definitely. And then they're just kind of touched on it, but that creates a lot of conflict for Ava. So can you kind of talk about her journey from one agency to another, and the conflict that she was having with people she cares about?
Right. So in Redemption, the first book of the series, she is a sheriff's deputy. She works for the county, and she's the only Native, on the force, and so she's kind of tasked to be the bridge between her community and the county, essentially, and also the city as well. She's called in for a number of things, as far as making the peace with really any entity that involves her people, or what could be happening. Maybe she's going to talk somebody down, as far as altercations go, so forth and so on. If there's a tribal member who commits a crime outside the reservation boundary, they would call her in. So she has a very good established relationship with her sheriff and the other deputies as well. And also, she's very good friends with the one particular city cop, Taos cop, who was infatuated with her. And so, she has to break his heart lightly, but he comes into play with book two, HAVOC, as well. I mean, she's one she is kind of on the outs in Redemption. She's a bit on the outs with her people, as far as, they wouldn't hire her because she's a female, tribal officer. Now that's not the case now, but for her instance, she was forced to even, move off of the reservation. So she's closer to town, to where she works. So she feels very, very disconnected to the actual reservation. But she's still very, very close to a number of the tribal officers and so forth. And then we find out at the end of Redemption that a female has been appointed chief of police, the tribal police, and that's actually true. There is a female police chief on the Taos Pueblo, and she's amazing. I mean, she's like an inspiration to anybody. She's and so so it was a perfect kind of bridge as far as going from finishing up that investigation that brought her closer to the reservation and the people that work on the reservation, to now at HAVOC is a year later, and now she is a tribal police officer.
All right. Which I kind of did a little cheer when that happened.
I know, right? It's so exciting. It's so exciting.
One of the other important characters in this is a hoop dancer.
Yes.
And that is very much I don't want to say ancient, but traditional kind of part of that culture. So can you tell us a little bit about hoop dancing and why you chose that to kind of
hoop dancing? I mean, the traditions go back really formulating there on the Taos Pueblo. Now, traditionally, it's performed by men, but many female are doing it now. Like the jingle, the jingle dance is more traditional for females. And I do introduce that a bit in HAVOC as well. But the hoop dancing, they perform all over the world. It's really fascinating, and it was so cool. I caught a New Mexico. It was like a tourism commercial that in New Mexico, and there's a hoop dancer. It's a female, all in her regalia, and she's got like 5 hoops, and she's hoop dancing. It's like, oh, Taos Pueblo. And then they show the Taos Pueblo. I was like, oh my God, it really is. So I did, I've been following this particular dancer she's fantastic. So, it's gaining more favor as far as allowing quote unquote females to perform this dance as well.
Well, and I won't give anything away, but there is a scene when she dances, and I was just weeping. It was just such an amazing just all of the feels were just colliding.
Nice.
It was amazing.
That's great. That is great.
So everybody just read these two books and read them now.
That's right.
Well, when HAVOC comes out in a couple weeks. So there's drug trafficking all over the Southwest. We know that, but it is a problem on the reservations, and you do highlight it a lot, and especially Redemption. So is there anything behind why you chose that, or was it just like topical because it is a problem?
Well, I didn't necessarily want to make it a big political statement at all whatsoever. I needed a way to gain favor as far as Paloma, the Paloma White Dove is her name, the hoop dancer. I needed it to be realistic why she would become a heroin addict. And so when she had her injury that also killed her husband, and other members of the tribe who were going to a performance, the unfortunate progression is you can't get pain medication anymore, so you turn to illicit drugs. Now there is a zero tolerance drug, on the reservation. I mean, that is really, really true. I do mention that. But things, outside forces bring things in. Yeah. There's only so much that the Native people can do. And so when she unfortunately becomes addicted, and then brings her cousin and 2 other of her good friends, down that very sticky web with her, it causes a very, very tragic situation that, they are essentially disenrolled. They've been banned And that's why no one believes that they're even missing.
Mhm.
And why Ava says, no, this is wrong. These are our people and we need to step up.
And one of the kind of beautiful and more almost mystical aspects of these is that it was like, no, she's my best friend. I would feel it if she were actually gone. I know she's still here. And I kind of, a lot of the characters have that kind of connection to
Yes.
their
And
people.
it's a very, very real connection. I mean, it really is. I mean, as far as, natives meeting natives, even if not particular, even from their tribe, it's kind of, I'll get around another native and it's kind of like, oh, I don't have to speak. I don't have to be, I don't have to do anything except, revel in the presence of calm.
Mhm. Oh, that's lovely. So going back to the heroin addiction, which is just very accurately depicted, very heartbreaking. Do you have a passion for it outside of the realm of, the books, or is
Yeah,
why did
not necessarily the drug addiction. I mean, I can connect because I'm, I've been dry for, 24 years, so yay. So I know what propels a person to need, to where
Mhm,
you have to have it. You have to, I mean, it's just very, very, very you know, something that you can't turn away from, you can't turn off, you can't not be so involved.
mhm,
So it's a little bit it is heartbreaking. And
yeah,
I have a couple of medical friends, and also a couple of sociologists who that's all they do is counsel drug addicts and and alcohol abusers. So I rely on so many people, and they were very, very helpful in that, taking my experience. And hey, I know I had the question. I think, I believe, I hope I knew the right questions to ask the professionals, you
mhm,
know because a lot of professionals, that was their life as well. Um, so they were, a lot of people were able to tell me, yes, this would happen. Yes, this is absolutely what happens. So it's kind of a verification of
mhm,
what uh, my instance would be 1,000-fold,
yeah, yeah. Yeah, and like I said, it's just heartbreakingly done. Um, so on a lighter note, because that was pretty heavy,
Yeah.
tell me about Shadow.
Oh, Shadow. Shadow, Shadow and Kai. So Kai is Paloma, the hoop dancer. That's her son,
Mhm,
is Kai. And he is the one with Ava who will not give up on
mhm,
finding Paloma.
yeah,
So in HAVOC, Shadow is a character. I mean, he's a full-fledged, in Redemption, he's still a puppy. And Kai isn't even sure if his uncle is even going to let him have the dog, but he's named him, he's claimed him. Um, but yeah, I mean, I have had a lot of mail with this and mentions about, their favorite character is Kai, and followed closely by Shadow.
yeah.
So I think in HAVOC, I mean, he's a year old now, Belgian Malinois. He's, Kai is training him to be a search and rescue animal, and he finds a lot of stuff. I mean, he kind of cracks open, you know, uh, uh, everything really for Ava to then, really investigate what's
Yeah.
going on.
Yeah, and just beautiful animals. I had never heard of the breed. And
Oh
I
yeah.
had to look it up instantly when I was reading the first book. I'm like, what's that? It's like, ooh,
Yeah.
pretty dog.
Right. They are pretty. There's some, yeah, they are work dogs for sure. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so in book two, we start with something that's just kind of hinted at in Redemption, which is 3D printed guns.
Mhm. Right.
So tell me about how you did your research and why you chose this particular evil thing that can come about from something that's relatively cool.
Right. Yeah, it used to be. Used to be. Now it's just terrifying.
Right.
With the ghost guns and yeah, I think it's something, again, I mean, I'm an entertainer. I like to introduce people to worlds that they may not be aware of. Um, but I mean, the gun situation is beyond out of control. And the 3D printing makes it even more so because anybody can do it. I mean, there are 3D printers everywhere.
Yeah.
Um, and then they go on the internet or wherever. I'm not going to say where,
Thank you.
to then purchase the parts that can't be printed and make an absolute gun that will fire.
Mhm.
Um, so it's a timely situation as far as the subject matter goes. I think it will be interesting to people. Um, it's not a reason to be, to do a cause for debate or anything. It's just, the first thing that got me excited was that, when I saw the 3D houses being printed, it's like,
Mhm.
whoa, that. I mean, reservations nationwide would benefit from this. I mean, really, really would. And then it's like, well, let's see, what can I do to then, put in, you know, more printing? It's like, well, you've got the
A
gun
little conflict.
situation. So it kind of, I that was so that both were kind of introduced a little bit in book one, and
Mhm.
then becomes the major plot points in Havoc.
Yeah, and it does indeed cause havoc.
Yes.
Absolutely. Um, and so with the 3D printing, did you look at different kinds of materials and things like that that were used, or did you just kind of go with 3D printers? Everybody will understand that. You don't need to deep dive any further.
I did. And I have been able to actually handle one that was printed, and side by side they look identical.
That's
So, as far as hands-on research that was done, a lot of videos, YouTube videos. A very good friend of my husband. He's a former sniper, Marine sniper, and so had conversations with him as far as, hey, tell me about ghost guns and the relation to the printing of 3D printing of guns and so forth. So he was really, really helpful too. So yeah, once again, more people in my village to help me get it right.
yeah, exactly. All right. So, what is next for Ava? I mean, and for you as well.
Right. So we're going to see how Havoc comes out. That's released July 30th, 2024. For anybody who's looking, 4 months from now. And yeah, we'll see. I mean, I know what I want to do for book three for sure. I really, really do. Right now, I'm focusing on a new project that takes place, different tribe, takes place in Oregon. So yeah, I mean, I just, I just keep working, keep going, like it's theoretically, the more you write, the more you research, the more you think about a project, the quote unquote easier it is. But really, it's what keeps us sane, right?
Right. The voices need to come out.
That's right.
All right. And so where can our fans find you?
Okay, so I'm pretty much everywhere. On Facebook, I'm Deborah J. Ledford. I also have a professional page there, Deborah J. Ledford, but it's a different. It looks different. It's my professional page. And then on Instagram and Twitter, X, whatever, and Threads, I'm DJ Ledford.
Okay.
And I have a YouTube channel where I have some of my blurbs are up there and videos and that type of thing. Yeah, I think pretty much everywhere except TikTok. I'm not going to do that one. That's that for the youngsters.
Exactly. It's like if somebody on TikTok would like to do something about my
Exactly. Right,
books,
right.
that would be great.
There you go. Exactly. But I
All
did
right.
find out something exciting today that for HAVOC, my publisher is Thomas and Mercer, and they've submitted for the trade magazines and so forth for reviews. And I just got a review from a favorable review from Library Journal. So I'm really excited. Yeah, this is hot off the press. You got the news flash.
Congratulations. That is
You.
amazing. And
Yes,
yeah,
high
so
hopes
hard to
for
get.
HAVOC. Yep.
It's a fantastic book. I don't see how they're not going to be thrilled with it. And yeah, the series should carry on. Definitely.
Right, right. I agree.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being with us today.
Sure.
It was so nice chatting with you. And thank you all for listening.
Yes, thank you,
And
everyone.
yeah, thank you for being here for Blackbird Writers Presents Author Interviews.
Thank you, Sharon.